I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahamaland to the foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Foundation with Howard Grant. Grateful to be in your company. Always grateful to be here. As we are jamming with you on another day, another time, another opportunity that we have, I'm grateful to be in your space, grateful to be in your company. It is a beautiful day. I pray that you guys are good out there, man, making some things happen and really being able to identify these things. The Prime Minister's in the House of Assembly today. That, coupled with his approach to being able to talk about what has happened last evening, really being able to give us this understanding of what the arbitration has brought forth in this particular, in this stead. Let's just be very clear about it. There is no clear victory for either, but the government has a significant foothold that their aspirations, desires, and idea as it relates to arbitration and the possibility of being able to have, in the event that they don't see their finances, that there is still a path that they can be able to get the arbitrators to do what they have to do. Let's talk to me. Let's just be very clear about this. This is heavy. It's good. This is not an easy conversation. A lot of persons are indifferent about it, especially last night I could feel people cringing as I started to talk about the bend or break speech. I could feel people cringing as the proverbial hedges that separated us and the introduction of political niceties entered into the space, into the conversation. I could feel people cringing as we sort of talked about the fact that from 1969, with the opening of Borco, this relationship has had its challenges, not necessarily between government and the Port Authority, but more specifically with a particular political organization. As I look at the political organization with the expectation that you adhere to the rules and regulations that existed before you. You black Negroes, not in a bad way. Listen, if you are of a lighter hue and you're watching me, this is not to offend you. This is undeniable, irrefutable history that existed in our country. And if you seek to be able to manipulate that, make modifications and be able to spin it how you want, then that's your business. I'm not going to fight you. I'm simply telling you that this is the truth of the history that existed in our country. Can I talk to you? If you want to be a part of the conversation there, you can do so, 827-0111, 827-0111. I asked them last night if they could start taking telephone calls or something on the rundown. I don't know if that's their thing. But because that's not my space. But this is always a community conversation for me. For me to be able to hear from you, for me to be able to have a conversation with you. Hey, listen, this is what I do. I don't have a problem with that. And if you want to be a part of that conversation today, let's do that. 827-0111, 827-0111. Let's give God praise and have a good conversation, man. Let's talk about this because this ain't easy. It ain't easy. It's not easy to have this kind of a conversation and just be content with this sort of an idea that, okay, it always has been this way and there's an expectation that it will always be this way. Hell no, that's not going to happen. Hell no, that's not going to happen. Hell no, that's not going to happen. But the existence of Sarah and Rupert alone can tell you that giants, they fall. That's it, man. The existence of Sarah and Rupert alone can tell you that giants, they fall. And that's it. This is no slight to anyone. The Port Authority recognizes or needs to recognize that things shift, and there's no need to be able to continue to tiptoe along a specific narrative to be able to project in the minds of those that exist in our community, the black and browns, the working class in our community, that we've always been, this sort of a grouping that upheld and keeps up these particular things. The history associated with the organization doesn't necessarily say that. It's not necessarily a bad history, but it was not an empowering one. That's just what it is. That's what it is. It was not an empowering history for those of us that existed in Grand Bahama, that it was a part of the working class. There was an idea. We never, listen to me, if we can talk, we can talk. If we can talk, we can talk. Oh, we can talk, it's up to you. But for me, I can talk. You ain't got to say nothing. That's fine with me. If you're from Grand Bahama and you still have this sort of watch yourself. Nah, this is the Port Authority, you know. Let me tell you something. For those persons who had an opportunity to be, when I was younger, I was born in 1981. But 1991, things have shifted in my community, in my constituency, in my space. And let's be very clear about these things. Okay? There was a level of prestige associated with being able to be identified and accepted by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, point blank. This was an aspiration for your life to be able to be identified and socially acclaimed as I have arrived. When the port called you, you had to be on the top of your game. Guys, if you can hear me, make sure you can text me and let me know if you hear me loud and clear and good. All right? Let's talk about this. I didn't do everything to make sure that we could be good. So hopefully be good. Listen to it. It sounds good. Praise Jesus. Let's jam. You had to do everything to be on top of your game in the Port Authority. In fact, when you were given a summer job, when you were given an internship, when you were going on job training or whatever, and you were accepted by the Port Authority instantaneously, you were assessed by your friends. Not necessarily through the view of they think they better than us, but just being able to identify it was just a SWOT analysis, a very quick SWOT analysis. Well, why does one get into the port? They dumb. Well, why does one go into the port? They don't present themselves accordingly. Well, why does one go into the port? They don't speak well. But why does one go into the port? I don't know I hope they dress well when they go to the port and wear these proper things. They don't look good when they go. Quick SWOT analysis to show your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and the threats that exist within you as an individual as to whether or not you should be adorning the front post and the porch of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Point blank. It happened at 8 Mile Rock. It happened in West End. It happened all throughout Grand Bahama. Happened in Freeport. Happened in East Grand Bahama. That's just what it is. When you are afforded an opportunity to work for the port, even now, there is a level that people expect you to operate on. Because the port represented that ilk, that prestige, that elevation in Grand Bahama. Someone talk to me. Now, when you get there and you're dumb, it's a whole different story. Oh my God. When you get there and you get fired and you're dumb and so forth and so on, you might as well don't look for nothing else in the country. Not in Grand Bahama. The port fire you. Jesus, what you a Stephen A? You dummy. Let's just shoot straight. This is what it was. This is what it was. This is what it was. There is a social line drawn in the sand between Grand Bahama Port Authority and the community. Y'all don't want to talk about this, you know. Y'all don't want to talk about this. There is a social line that is drawn between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and its ownership, and those that are affiliated with it, and the wider community. Let's shoot straight. Excuse me. We have to be very clear about this. Nobody pronounced this as segregation or racism or this sort of this separation. No one pronounced it as that. There was a social expectation that if you were capable, you would be identified in one way or another. This was the Hunger Games before the damn Hunger Games ever existed. This is how you were identified in our society. You know how bad I wanted to go work to the port? I didn't know what the hell I was going to do there, but I just wanted to be there to let people know and introduce them. Well, you know, I worked to the Port Authority. I worked at the port. Yeah, I worked for the Port Authority. And I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about the perks associated with that. If you worked at the Port Authority, you work for the Port Authority in some instance or some way, there is a reduction in your children's school fee. They pay a portion of your children's school fee. There's a reduction in so much. Listen to me, with some perks working for the port. It was some perks working for the port. It was some perks working for the Port Authority. As a result of those perks, there was an expectation and there was social elevation to be able to perk up, to lift up the Port Authority above our shoulders, head and shoulder above our shoulders. We lifted and hoisted the Port Authority above us and championed their cause, especially beyond this sort of retribution, beyond this sort of an idea for the reciprocity that existed there. I gave them labor. They gave me opportunity. My children could be able to go here. We could still be comfortable. There's great opportunities here. Beyond that reciprocity that existed there, we hoisted the port up to a position where the higher they went, the lower our eyelids became. And in the 90s, it wasn't a big deal, you know. It wasn't a big deal. We were okay. We were doing well. Money was coming in. Tourists was coming in. Things were happening. The Discovery Sun was moving. The Sea Escape was moving. Tourists was coming in. Hotels were opening. Money was making. Taxi drivers was making money. The Grand Bahama, the Rand Memorial Hospital wasn't bad. The Lucayan Medical Center had started to flourish. Banking wasn't horrible. People were making money. Our kids could do some stuff. Money was flowing in Grand Bahama. Drug money didn't dry up yet. Grand Bahama was okay. It was all right. It was okay. It was okay. It was all right. Nothing was wrong. It was okay. The F&M won once, and they win again. Well, it was all right. It's no big deal. We paid homage to the Free National Movement subconsciously. Man, listen, y'all ain't want to talk to me today. Our commitment to the Free National Movement was no other reason for our affinity and our affection, our desire, our alignment, our allegiance to the Grand Bahama Port Authority. We had no reason to like the F&M outside of that. None. From 1969, Bend or Beg speech, Grand Bahama took on a position against the PLP. You ask people of the average Joe Blow why they are F&M in Grand Bahama right now, they have no damn idea. They will make up every Jesus Christ thing and tell you this one is a thief, this one is a whore, this one is this and that. You know this one do this, this da. It's too much. You have no proof, no facts, no nothing. You are embellishing these stories, and all you have is relentless emotion about the Progressive Liberal Party. That's why. You have no understanding of why you don't like them. I mean, it's up to you. That's your business. You're a man, you're a woman. You could choose. You pass 18, make your choice. But your choice is dumb. So just say, I say FNM or I say PLP. Never give me a reason. Please keep your reason to yourself because I'm looking at you different. Okay? And if we could extract a vote from you, I would vouch for that and see if we could be able to take this vote from you because he sounds stupid. Okay? But keep your vote. I say FNM, keep your vote. I say PLP, keep your vote. Don't explain to me why. Because from the bend or break speech, the entire community turned its back on the Progressive Liberal Party. Someone talk to me. Don't even talk about this. From 1969. And PLPs like Obie Wilchcombe, PLPs like Ann Pacenti, PLPs that exist in our community that found victory in one way or another over the years had to work their butts off to get this. They had to work. They had to meet you one by one, one-on-one. They had to forge a relationship with you to be able to get that. That Free National Movement members, not necessarily so. There is an unspoken principle that exists in various constituencies within the island, and there is an expectation to move in that direction. And so you follow your party line. Listen, you have no affiliation with your party, you know. You only know you read. You've never been to none of these people town hall meeting. You never been to their constituency meeting. You never do nothing. You never participate. You never walk with them. You never do nothing. All the time it comes to voting, you say FNM. You're not active in your organization. You don't pay your dues. You don't do nothing. Only time it's voting, I'm an FNM. And people accept that. Okay, I'm an FNM. Nobody's going to question you. If this is the direction that you decide to vote, praise God, do your thing. Nobody can fight you. But we're going to have a clear conversation about this and be strong about this. The only reason these people have gone contrary to the Free National Movement is as a result, let's be clear, as a result of the 1969 Bender Big speech that happened at Borco. Prime Minister said that the island needs soul. Soul was always an affiliation with black, with salt. Y'all don't want to talk to me, you know. And I got to be on, like, well, man, we working on some stuff. But anyway, let me cook. Amen. Let me take my time and not make any significant steps out there and do like this. Let's be clear about some stuff. All right? Let's be clear about some stuff. I want to be able to say to you, and I got to say this to you, and make you to understand something. We got to be clear about this. Most people don't know why they're voting against the PLP. PLPs in Grand Bahama. Okay, so there's a lot of shiftiness that is happening, especially in Grand Bahama, as it relates to voting. I didn't know I was at FNM for years. I didn't know. And I probably would have never known unless it was for tribulation, for people treating me like crap. I would have never known. I would have never even bothered to know. I would just accepted whatever the party said and fall in line with those particular things. But when I saw that there was an indifference to me and my family and all these particular things, I started to question some stuff. And in the pursuit of information and transparency and honesty and this sort of an absolution, I recognized that this doesn't even make sense. Why was I affiliated with the organization? Why is my family affiliated with this organization? I'm not saying that you should be a PLP, but just saying by being able to identify these things, there was segregation that existed here, never opportunities, never empowerment, never access. These things were not designed for us. They were designed for foreigners. For the most part, the majority of things that have happened for the Free National Movement, by the Free National Movement and their institution in terms of being able to usher this proverbial change, and I got to be able to put that in air quotes, this change in, that change wasn't designed for the masses. The change was designed strategically for those particular persons who can be able to access that lives in a particular tax bracket. That's how they identify you in the United States of America, a tax bracket. But there's a grouping of people that lives within a certain community bracket. So we call them wealthy, middle class, upper class, lower middle class, working class, and below the poverty line. And for the most part, the Free National Movement identified their social empowerment has been geared to sort of upper and upper middle class and the wealthy. We've never identified that. We looked at these particular things, and we looked at the backdrop of why the things like the Fresh Start program and the Fresh Start program came about, or the Jump Start program came about, or any of these particular programs, including the 52-week program, came about, which was great national initiatives, but there was always some wagon hitched to this prospect and opportunity that was presented to the Bahamian people. Somebody talk to me, man. Y'all just be joking, man. Let's be real with this thing, man. I ain't got no time to be joking with nobody. I ain't got no time to be joking with nobody. You're sitting here and you love Papa and you love this one and love that one, but don't recognize that none of these things really was for us. We are viewed even by the few as Negro laborers. That's it. And while you perceive to be able to grab on something significantly and be able to climb yourself by your bootstraps up to be able to get to a different social class, you'd realize that the latter and the opportunity was never afforded you by a specific organization. You don't want to see it like that, though. You don't want to see it like that. There is cooning and neo-colonialism that exists deep, enriched within politics in our country. And the pendulum is swinging heavy on one end. I just want to be clear with you. I want to be clear with you. I want to be clear with you. Okay? I look at this and I look at all these things and you have no idea what exists. The Port Authority and those gatekeepers in the organization. I'm not talking Rupert. I'm not talking Sarah. There are people that existed in the Port Authority prior to Rupert and Sarah, for the most part, are figureheads. They're taking more initiative to do a great deal of things, but the decisions, for the most part, that happen in the Port Authority happens within the body. It doesn't necessarily happen with individuals. Maybe they have carte blanche in some areas that they can be able to, but the Port Authority is an establishment and a grouping. And there is the advisors and the council that have been there from time immemorial, and they understand how things have worked. They understand the lay of the land. They understand the function. They understand the families that exist there. They understand where their support comes from, and they make their decisions according to the information that they have. Be clear about this. Let's be clear about this. Rupert and Sarah walked into an opportunity, and now they have to learn the lay of the land. They have to learn the culture. They have to learn what their expectations are and how that they would perform. They have to learn this. They're learning, and they're learning well. They're doing well. But as it relates to major reforms being able to be introduced as a result of youth and insight and vision being at the forefront of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, I can say that this is what we're going to be able to see. We saw Rupert, and we saw Rupert fighting, and we saw Rupert tenacious and determined and focused and optimistic and being able to present concepts and ideas. And then we saw Rupert take on a task and a position that was his. He took up one specific task, which was Blue. I think it was called Blue. I think it's Blue, right? Which had to do with restoration of the reefs. And he did something, and he did it tremendously. He did it into such a manner that he was recognized the world over for what he'd done. It seems to me that Rupert is the type of guy that when he takes up something, he goes 100% all the way. And he identifies ways to be able to fortify this particular thing and move forward with strength, determination, and this kind of a focus and commitment to move forward. Yeah, Rupert he's amazing at what he does. But Rupert was introduced to this as a result of his lineage, not necessarily as a result of his passion. And even with the introduction of his desires to be able to bring his passion for reformation, his passion for growth, his passion for diversification, there was a tradition that existed here before him, and he had to conform. Rupert is a friend. And Rupert first came, I would have considered going to Grand Bahama with Rupert. We sat, we talked, we spoke about these particular things. We sat down, we had a drink, we sat down and talked about the possibilities. Rupert got up in the middle of the conversation, gone. After a text, gone. I don't know who texted him. I don't know what they say. I don't know. He's busy. He's a busy guy. Gone. It's just what it is. If he could have made decisions, because he's dealing not just Rupert and Sarah, but if he could have made decisions, we would have seen a different Port Authority entirely. He has heart for people. I believe he does. He has a heart for people. And I believe that he wants to be able to make some change. But when you are walking into a space, you recognize that they only need you in a token capacity. And so you just fall in. You fall in line with what their desires are. That's what has happened. Grand Bahama Port Authority, there is a great deal of potential that exists there. And there's a great deal of commitment from the islands and the people of the islands to be able to support you and getting to a better place. From Wallace Groves, we've committed ourselves to you. Talk to me. From Wallace Groves, before 1955. The men in my family, my grandfathers, both of them, were a part of the transformation of the island of Grand Bahama into the city of Freeport. My grandfathers, my father's father and my mother's father were a part of the transformation of Grand Bahama. My father's father was a part of the pining industry. He would have come down initially from Turks and Caicos, moved to Abaco, moved from Abaco, moved to Pinedale. Living in Pinedale, he was a part of the pining industry in Grand Bahama, which was the introduction of a shift for growth and development in the city of Grand Bahama. Pining. My mother's father, he was a part of the dredging, so the construction industry. He was one of the crane operators that dredged the 55-foot deep canal, which would have been the deepest canal of its time in the entire region, right there in Grand Bahama. My grandfather was a part of the digging of that trench, that canal. There is a love that we have for the Port Authority that is unmeasured. It's Jesus and the Port Authority. And some people has interchanged it depending. It's just what it is. There is a love, an affection, and an affinity for the Grand Bahama Port Authority in Grand Bahama. You've fed us. You've taken care of us. You gave us a level of pride that we didn't have to kind of grovel at the feet of our members of parliament to be able to get anything. You gave us honor as a community. You gave us work. We understood these particular things, but at the same time, there was a fence at the edge of 8 Mile Rock. There was a separation that existed in this particular space. Let's be clear about this. There's a segregation that exists there, and those persons who exist within the confines of Freeport have access to a great deal of things because of affiliation. And as a result of those things, listen, and black people are so fooled. Oh, I want to go and get a chicken from this particular place because, oh my God, you know, why? Because they're in the bonded area? Because they're in Freeport? Oh, let's go here. So the idea of the prestige associated with it alone, the prestige alone, caused these people to pay their bills and make money. The island flocked to them. Subpar things most of the time. Subpar service most of the time. But you run to them. Oh God, you know, this is, whoa. I just want you to understand something. This is not diminishing the Grand Bahama Port Authority at all. But this is acknowledging that there must come a shift. We have lived in a subservient posture, relentlessly bowing and with our hands extended, with an expectation to receive something. You gave us the perception of real ownership by allowing us to work and to be able to have enough pride to develop ourselves and develop our homes. That's that pride that Nasuvians don't understand and the other family islanders don't understand. Why y'all Grand Bahamian people think y'all are better than us? This thing was beat into us. We never groveled to no MP asking them for nothing. No MP, never, none. We never groveled to no MP and asked them for nothing. The Grand Bahamian MPs never had to do nothing to talk about. Not those in the central of Grand Bahama. Not those in the center of Grand Bahama. They're not doing nothing to talk about. The Port Authority had that covered. The grass was cut on a regular basis. They had to do that. There was no need for local government. They had to do that. The Port Authority had these things covered. If you live in Marco City, if you live in Pine Ridge, if you live in certain parts of East End, if you live in certain parts of central Grand Bahama, you didn't have to worry about certain things. You didn't. You just did not. You pay your bills, you make sure some things are taken care of, you're straight. 8 Mile Rock MP, West End MP, and East End MP, they had some things to do. We had to take care of some things. The city of Freeport didn't have to do that. And so the representation was only a token of representation, truly, and being able to deal with people, and more on the personal note. My Auntie Anne, and I call her Auntie, it's my wife Auntie, my Auntie Anne would have been able to be more personal with people when she found victory. Her personality and her personability, her ability to be able to touch people and help them in other areas gave her the victory and the success. And C.A. Smith did not know. He cried. Jesus, he cried. What? I mean, ugly cry. I mean, I never seen no ugly cry like this in my life. I mean, cry. Cry? An ugly cry? Woo, Jesus. But the representation that existed in the city of Freeport was different representation that existed in the outskirts. My mother, for instance, she had to fix parks and cut roads and cut on the side of the road and set these things up and put people in certain spaces and all. This is, my mother she had to work. She needed a team. She needed a team. She should have paid me, but praise Jesus. She needed a team. I'm not going to fight her. She needed a team. And the team required certain things. In East Grand Bahama, Pleasant, Bridgewater, in her particular capacity, it needed a team. And that's why they were so good with Pleasant's sister who came out, because they had already understood the mechanics of what this team entailed and what is required by a team. They understood the mechanics. And so they only activated what they would have done for Pleasant. Y'all don't never want to talk like this. Y'all just want to be able to look at the surface and be able to make this assessment and make these particular things. The victory that exists for these particular instances is the victory for the Bahamian people. The victory of this arbitration is the victory for the Bahamian people. The victory does not belong to the government of the Bahamas. And whilst they can boast about the fact that they enacted these things, yeah, but the glory exists for the people of Grand Bahama who can access a great deal of things, and a light should be able to be shown upon you now for you to understand that you can access a great deal of things and that your working was not in vain, that this kind of a labor was not this laborious posture that you would have had for a long time. You could be able to find. So now the government has to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do for Grand Bahama when they get this $300 and something million. Talk to me. Talk to me. Okay, we got bills, and we can take the 300 and something thousand, 300 something million, and we can put the 300 and something million over here, here, and here, and here, and do that. No, you're gonna have to start. You're gonna have to do better than that. You're gonna have to do better than that, because the truth is, for what has been excavated, what has been extracted, what has been sucked out of Grand Bahama for far too long needs to be replenished, replaced, revived, renewed, restored. There's some commitment that was made to Grand Bahama West End. There was some commitment that was made to Grand Bahama East End. There was some commitments that was made to Grand Bahama Central Grand Bahama, 8 Mile Rock, West Grand Bahama. There's some commitments that we need to be able to see come to light. And so this arbitration and the possibility of being able to reclaim anything, there needs to be a clear articulation of what the expectation of those in the event that you do get rewards will be for Grand Bahama. The Grand Bahamian people have been waiting for a long time. This is vindication. This does so many things that y'all just, I don't know if you want to talk about. This does so many things. This here is steering the PLP on the right path. The next generation, the next dispensation, on the right path. This here, for any leader who cares to watch FNM or PLP, what this move does is empower you to be able to take on challenges, to be courageous, that in the midst of it all, you could find yourself in the position to grow. It's not going to be easy. This ain't no easy situation now. Let's be clear. This ain't going to be easy. You're sitting down here. You think this ain't easy. The PLP, I don't know whether or not this put one feather in your hat. Because this should have been accompanied by a media blitz. Yeah, man, you should have run ahead of it. I like what the Prime Minister did in terms of the national briefing and being able to bring us all up to date on these particular instances last evening. He has mechanisms that the Grand Bahama Port Authority does not. They only could be able to send you one sheet of 139 and try to be able to say that they've won. They have won that particular portion, but there's no transparency released to the people of Grand Bahama. You only told what you need to be told. And why would they have done that? Why would they have done that? Which advisors tell them that this makes sense? I don't know. I don't know. We got to talk about these things. This is a victory for the people of the Bahamas, the people of Grand Bahama. This wasn't a victory for the PRP. This wasn't a victory for the Grand Bahama Port Authority. This was the eradication of an unspoken segregation that continued to exist and thrive in our society. This was the eradication of the idea that there is a relentless subservience and that we, the people who would have come to Grand Bahama before 1955, during that particular era, for the purposes of development, that our sons, our children are now subservient and continue to be able to render its talents, its labor unto the feet of the Port Authority without retribution. That has to be done away with. We need to be getting paid for what we do. Allegations are swirling about who is making $20 million a year at the Port Authority. This is just allegations, but it's swirling. Like crazy. Swirling. And people at the Port Authority are content in their particular position, but they've never assessed their value. Their assessment for their value is always external. The Port Authority tells you what you're worth. The Port Authority tells you your value. The Port Authority tells you what their expectations are of you. You never do a self-evaluation. You never reflect on yourself to know what you would have given and what your capabilities are. So you accept this. And in the midst of this acceptance, years later, you could only mumble to yourself, man, I wish I was making more money. Well, and instantly justified. Well, the kids had to go to school. I had to do whatever I could do at the time, I've been here for 21 years and they never raised my salary. Man, this is what's going on, man. Congratulations to the government of the Bahamas. Congratulations to the Bahamian people. And to the Port Authority, I say congratulations also. They can look at the environmentalists right now. They can take care of that. But we want to hear a commitment of what your intentions are in terms of the takeover. Now is the time, better than any, for change in the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Now! Let Rupert take over. Now is the time. Now! Let Rupert take over. Let's be able to see those things. Guys, let's take a quick break. We're going to be right back after this.
World. This DJ Sampler. Hit that subscribe button like a goat skin drum.
Hello, Ricky. It's Johnny Gate. Man. Listen, don't believe they're trying to keep us locked down. They want us to go inside the kill man. They're just breaking straight, man. That's sweet music. You know why they go there. You know when they go there, it's kill man. Watch this. When the music plays, I'm the first one to dance. Sexy gal gon' whine on me while my rum in my hand. Reggae spread so sweet, don't think you understand. I go in to mash up the place every time I go by the farm. I always get catch, drinking till I lose and I wet. Nobody gon' watch me if I kill bad and I sweat. On your market set, drunk but I ain't missing a step. Man, if you ain't feel the vibe, then stay over there by yourself. When Reagan's great return, I can dance, I can sing, I can wave my flag. When Reagan's great return, I can drink all the rum, I can get on my. When Reagan's great returns, I can dance, I can sing, I can wave my flag. When Reagan's great return, I can drink all the rum, I can get on my. Get him, Ricky! Just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that red. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like stew fish with Johnny Cake. I say, just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that red. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like stew fish with Johnny Cake. I say, just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that red. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like stew fish with Johnny Cake. When the music plays, I'm the first one to dance.
Yo, bust it, wait, stop, bust it, my lord.
ambassadors. Hey, DJ Sampler.
Yo, bust it, bass sampler, bust it, mothers.
It's 3 a.m. and I'm waiting for the sun. Lost track of the days, man, look at this ain't no fun. Cell phone in my left hand, TV on my right. My mouth extra dry 'cause there ain't no rum inside. Longing for the days when I was wild and free. Out to everything was lit, not a care or worry. Now it's like I joined the clan of HLB, but I ain't commit no crime, so please set me free. Loose me, let me go. I don't want the inside no more. Loose me, let me go. This is killing me, that's for sure. So let me out, let me out, let me out, yeah, let me out. Loose me, let me go. I don't want the inside no more. Loose me, let me go. This is killing me, that's for sure, yeah. Mothers, they say we on lockdown? When we went to that? I'm tired, yeah. Life inside ain't as easy as it seems. Sit back, let me tell you exactly what I mean. The children stay fighting, date up everything. I'm working like a slave while he sits up like a king. Can I help you? You sit and rest. Come here, babe, let me feel upon the breast. It's a nightmare, this ain't the life for me. I ain't commit no crime, so please just set me free. Loose me, let me go. I don't want the inside no more. Loose me, let me go.
Yo, bust it, bass sampler, bust it, mothers.
His name was Arthur, he was my papa. He loved to whistle, boy he was good. Plowing the field or catching fish, you could hear Papa whistling like this. Oh, whistle Papa, you whistle so sweet. Hey. He was a Cat Island man, a gentleman. He said to be kind to all mankind. A choir master in Ebenezer, in Dumfries at the church upon the hill. Oh, aye.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, and we're jamming with you, being able to talk about these things and really talk about where we are from a national standpoint, being able to identify this. And today we are focused on this arbitration between the families, between the Port family, which is the Edwardson George family, and the Haywood family, and simultaneously being able to take on this position to identify the position associated with the government's pursuit to litigate in this manner, to identify and to bring forth arbiters to do some arbitration, right? And so let's talk about these particular things. In the papers today, you can be able to read some information that I want to be able to talk to you about and bring to the forefront. We read the story and trying to be able to find out. We listened to, yesterday we would have listened to the AG, Ryan Pinder, being able to take on this sort of a really exuberant and excitable position to be able to identify that the government has taken this position and the government understands where it is, and we want to be able to cheer ourselves and claim victory in this particular matter. Now, let's talk and let's just have a very clear conversation. Let's talk and talk about what this means going forward. What does this mean going forward? So this is a story, and I want to be able to read it with clarity. And the government's $357 million Grand Bahama Port Authority owner change bid suffers setback. The owner bid is suffered setbacks in this particular space. All right, so let's be able to talk about that. What we need to be able to find out is this concept and idea of arbitration. What is arbitration, right? And we're going to be able to find this out and identify this, and we're going to talk about this. Arbitration is a private, consensual, and binding method to alleviate a dispute resolution where parties agree to submit their disputes to a neutral third party rather than pursuing litigation in the court. It is characterized by its flexibility, confidentiality, and the ability to choose specialized arbitrators, right, to resolve the specific conflict, often used in commercial and international dispute. The consensual nature of the arbitration derives its variety from the voluntary argument, the voluntary kind of position of the parties to resolve despite the outside in the public court system. So a binding decision, this decision or the award made by the arbiters, is a binding and generally final with limited options for appeal. This is what it is. This is binding and sometimes final, most often final. And it doesn't give you any wiggle room to be able to go back to the Supreme Court, so forth and so on. And to alleviate these particular things, this is the approach that they take. Now let's talk about this. This is also an alternative to litigation. It provides mechanisms for resolving disputes that is often faster and more specialized than public court litigation, often used for international business or contract disputes. It's a private process, right, where the proceedings are held privately rather than in an open court, allowing for greater confidentiality. So they know they keep their stuff under wraps. And then a selection of experts. The parties often have the ability to choose arbitrators who have specific enterprise. In specific enterprises with expertise in this subject matter. And you can be able to find that, right? So all these things is in the papers. Now, the government of the Bahamas has decided to be able to go, instead of going through a public court, which can be able to last forever, let's go through arbitration. Let's go through arbitration and being able to find this out. Let's read this, right? Now, this is in the business section of the Tribune. I want to read a little taste of this so you can be able to understand exactly what's what. Mr. Pinder, Ryan Pinder, argued that in 1994, the agreement paragraph 3 is almost identical to the scope that we could expect. Now, after the arbitrators have come back to indicate that we don't believe that you're owed $357 million, but we do believe that you're owed something based upon a clause that existed. Now, you initially said that you would have been owed $357 million from the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. However, that was made modified as a result of a new contract that was instituted in 1994, signed by Hubert Alexander Ingram. And as a result of that, the stipulations thereof indicated that you should have been able to get $500,000 a year for a finite time, which should have been about 5 years, but then you would have gone back to the table and made some modifications. 32 years have passed. You've done absolutely nothing. The arbitrators indicated that we believe that this portion of the contract is not dead, is not null, it's not void. It's still active. Despite the inactivity, despite the fact that we have not pursued anything, despite the fact that we've done nothing to ensure that we could be able to reclaim these aspects, this portion of the contract is not dead. So you're not necessarily owed $357 million, but you are owed something. Now, how do we quantify, how do we identify what that something is in a numeric value? We'd have to be able to go back to another level of arbitration to be able to make a determination and identify a mechanism to be able to give a specific calculation to say that this is what it is. That's what it is. That's what this is. That's what has happened here. Okay? This is what's happened. There may be this idea associated with the fact that that there is a victory to be celebrated for the Grand Bahama Port Authority, but this is not a victory. Because why? Let's run down this particular segment and make you to understand why. This is unlikely to be desired. Okay, let's talk about this. All right. Ryan Pinder goes on to be able to say the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. Okay, so the 1994's agreement, paragraph 3, almost identical to the scope that we expected. They expected to be able to retreat and retrieve a sense of finances as a result of a clause that was in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. Like I said, the was modified in 1994. In the Hawksbill Creek Agreement clause used to bring the claim, implying that it could result in the Grand Bahama Port Authority owing a similar sum to the original $357 million demand. Hold on, this is heavy. And he goes on to say yesterday, as we watched him, he says, in my opinion, the full amount of our claim still stands. This is what he says. We look forward to the review by the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the parameters of what they owe the taxpayers of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is unlikely to be desired by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The arbitrators said that they were reluctantly persuaded by the Freeport's quasi-governmental authority not to address in their initial ruling questions over whether the review mechanism can be applied retroactively. Okay, so retroactively, for all of you who don't necessarily understand and has never experienced a retroactive pay, let me explain to you what retroactive pay is. We received a check for an increase that, when I was working at the hotel, we received a check for an increase in the hotel for something that has been negotiated for the past, I don't know, they was negotiating this thing for a year or two. I don't know how long they was negotiating this thing. But when it was stated, it was retroactive pay. So that means that I would have been paid from the institution of this sort of an idea a year and a half, 2 years ago up to this point, as though I would have been getting paid for this thing the entire time. Retroactive is a very clear indication that you would have been getting paid from 1994 to now, all the way up to 2054. That's what this is. That's what this indicates. that you would have been paid retroactively leading all the way up to this particular space. Let's just be very clear about this. And so it says that the Freeport's quasi-governmental authority addressed them over whether or not the review mechanism can be applied retroactively and how far back the government can go. That's what they was talking about. However, if both the parties would like the tribunal to resolve this issue, given that this is a partial award, the tribunal would be able and prepared to take the course and would appreciate giving directions to enable the issues to be resolved as quickly as and is practical and consistent with justice. Let's just talk about that. He says, however, there were indications that the Grand Bahama Port Authority would prefer to put such an issue before the judicial court system rather than the arbitration, again signaling that the retroactivity battle looms. So he asked the government, see, because this could be more. Listen. This could be more than $357 million. It could be more than $357 million. It could be more than that. Both the government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority yesterday moved rapidly to set the public relations narrative by highlighting the talking up and talking up the aspects of the verdict most favorable to them, but the rulings show that neither side was completely successful with their case and their claims. Absolutely correct. The government didn't win $357 million. The Port Authority didn't win $1 billion. Absolutely correct. Absolutely. The government was partial in their victory and being able to be giving indication that you're not owed $357 million. We have another mechanism that we can be able to identify how much money you're being owed. The Grand Bahama Port Authority said, well, whatever they being owed, let's not talk about it as a retroactive payment, eh? And the arbitrators indicated that we can be able to fix this. And they said, well, if we can fix it and you can add this retroactivity concept in it, that clause in there, then maybe we can go to a Supreme Court and make that particular determination. And the government of the Bahamas has indicated that, okay, this is what we will do. The court has given them until, I think, the 6th of March to be able to come back and make that kind of determination as to exactly what's what. This is interesting. Both the government and the Grand Bahama Port Authorities, this is an extremely interesting thing. I want to read a little something for you to be able to let you know understand something. However, Mr. Pinder did not address them and mention that the government had failed in its key objective in launching the arbitration proceedings. This was to obtain significant leverage to force the Grand Bahama Port Authority's two owners, Haywood and St. George family, to exit by winning a verdict that Freeport's quasi-governmental authority owed $357 million or some other significant sum, and it could not pay. You see what the objective was? Mother sick. This is amazing. This is amazing. This is an amazing thing. The government had failed in its key objective in launching the arbitration proceedings. This was to obtain sufficient leverage to force the Grand Bahama Port Authority and its two owners, Haywood and St. George family, to exit by winning a verdict that Freeport's quasi-governmental authority owed $357 million or some other significant sum that it could not pay. Bananas. and this what the objective would have been. By taking that particular route, the objective would have been this. This would have either forced the families to sell, or if they proved reluctant, the government would likely have petitioned the Supreme Court to appoint a receiver to take control of the port group of companies and sell them off to a buyer. However, the immediate threat of this happening has been lessened by the arbitrator's rejection of the $357 million demand. Although the danger has not been eliminated. And you know what's crazy is that during this particular time of arbitration, there has been this prospect in the midst of that specific litigation to be able to identify who owes what. There has been this sort of an introduction entering into our public space of Born Free, which was John Boswick, Pew, and Rupert Roberts being able to form a company to acquire for $350-some million the Grand Bahama Port Authority. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is exciting stuff. I might as well tell you this. This is exciting stuff. I'm telling you. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this may not necessarily be exciting for the people who are involved. But when we see things like this, it gives us this level of reassurance to say that our society is thriving, that democracy is rich and real, that things are shifting, and that we're not stagnant, and things that were always things are now shifting towards what we intended to be, what it should be, or what it's going to be. And so there's a shift that's happening in this particular space, and I want to be able to commend all parties for being able to fight in such a ferocious manner to let us know that these things could happen in all aspects. The precedent has been set, and we now have an opportunity to be able to challenge on different spaces and different spheres and different areas. So congratulations again to the government of the Bahamas for its partial victory, and congratulations to the Port Authority and its partial victory for these particular things, right? Let's be able to read that. Ruling finds the Grand Bahama Port Authority could still be required to pay the government. Arbitration shows that no exclusive right to run the port area, which is that breaking up the monopoly and this sort of a concept and idea of what a quasi-government is, and the government unto themselves, as though there's a hedge around a hedge around Freeport more specifically, and there's the level of segregation that exists in this particular space that the rules and regulations that govern the country is impenetrable to the space in Freeport. That can't be. That just can't be. That can't be. That don't even make sense. That can't be. Murder is murder. Thief is thief. All these particular things we could be able to exist under the proverbial dome of the Freeport area, which it seems like a dome sometimes. You enter in is one particular way. You come out is a different way. It seems like a dome sometimes. So there's a mindset, there is an expectation, there's a way of life that exists within the confines of Freeport City itself. And as a result of that, under this proverbial dome that exists in these particular spaces, we're seeing what we see. We're seeing it. We're seeing it. And so this monotony, this segregation, this superiority that existed here to say that we are the Grand Bahama Port Authority and everyone else is, outside the skirts, outside of, this particular jurisdiction. We own this space. Immigration, customs, whatever imports, whatever duties, whatever licenses, whatever these particular things are, there is and has been for a very long time unspoken, undealt with, and lie dormant. There has been this sort of a way that You want something, you had to go through the Grand Bahama Port Authority to get a license, to go here, to go there, to go all these particular spaces. And everyone else is supposed to operate in a different space. You accepted it for a very long time. Is there room to change now? Let's talk about that. This is exciting. I think you get Pat on. Pat, how you doing, my dear? All is well? I'm good. How are things with you?
Things good. Thank God for life.
Praise God.
But I couldn't wait for my day to call you because you from Grand Bahama and you have so much, information and you're an excellent educator. I commend. I am really, really I see where Brave got his name from. I'm that brave because he really, really what he did, I don't know if people can understand and appreciate.
This was courageous. This was courageous.
Yes, Mr. Grant. Really, really and truly. I don't know if I'm not from, like I said, my father, he's buried in Grand Bahama. But I can't appreciate the depth of what really happened, but I can to see what, and I listened to his speech today in Parliament. I listened to him last night. I listened to some of your show, and the historic nature, the education that's coming through with the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, the re-signing, and different parts, and the whole history. It's we need some books and some. Look here, that's some serious history. You understand? But like I said, what Mr. Davis did, it was really now. I've been hearing. I heard someone made the argument that they lost because they didn't. It was denied the amount that they asked for. It was denied, right? Listening to you and the way you broke that down, you really read that story. That's from the Tribune or the Guardian.
It's the Tribune.
The Tribune, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. The way they broke that down as well, right? And the dots where the boss.
But it could be. Listen, it could possibly be worse for the Grand Bahama Port Authority. It could be worse.
I heard what the Prime Minister said just this morning, right? But I don't understand. But what really has me. I'm very pleased with, and I think all Bahamians, if they want to be real, can appreciate the part that was in. I don't care who asked for it. I don't care if the Port Authority asked for a counter, whatever they call it, wanted. They wanted the full control. They wanted to take over everything. Immigration approvals, everything. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that's what they wanted to do a long time.
They wanted to do this, but I'm saying the nerve, and anybody being disappointed that they didn't get their way with this. I don't care whether they brought this up because of this administration going after them for these monies that is owed to Grand Bahama or Freeport, but not for him and them bringing this to arbitration. You understand? Right. They would not have had to do what they did, but now to be that's final. That's no appeals or anything, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, that is one of the parts that I am very, very pleased about. I don't care how we got here or whatever, and I feel as if future generations will be able to appreciate this. Your children, your grandchildren, great-grand will be able to, I think things, as far as with in Freeport and Grand Bahama. But what I want to ask you in relation to, because I heard Miss Moxie when she was speaking about certain things that were not blocked, but they were trying. They had stumbling blocks and whatever. I don't know if that's excuses or whatever have you. But in relation to the International Bazaar, could you please give me more input as far as to what's going on in reference when I hear that when you speak about persons to lease the persons who are leasing or who were leasing business persons who have some sort of input as to not getting or we have to receive monies or whatever else payments or whatever have you. And as far as with the government going after, as far as with claiming that properties to in order to do a development there, what's going on in reference to with the authority having say as or final approval on that. I'll hang up and I'll listen. So I just want to listen to you. Thank you so much and enjoy your day.
Okay, thanks, man. It's great to hear from you, Pat. Hope you're well. Hope everything's good with you. Now, let's just be very clear about this. And as we're talking and being able to identify these things, I didn't listen to all of what Ginger Marks is saying, but in so many words that let me just be able to let you know what I understand. The International Bazaar is within the confines of Freeport, right? There are 13 owners for the International Bazaar. And for you to make a determination of a sale, you have to go through a particular process that includes the 13 owners coming to an agreement that this is how much we're going to sell the International Bazaar for, right? Whether or not it is an elevated value, a depreciated value, so forth and so on, the process must take its course through them. The government has instituted what I believe to be, and I stand to be corrected, somewhat similar to what eminent domain is. Now, eminent domain is a sort of a legal power and a sort of a federal, state, or local governments that seize the private property for the public use. And this sort of an eminent domain that exists in these particular spaces indicated that for the use of productivity of the island, so forth and so on, this is what we needed, right? The economic well-being and position of this is what we needed this for. The government of the Bahamas said that they decided to be able to take on this position and reclaim this position without it going to court, because that can take a significant time. If we waited more time, it would have been able to go through all this. Now, they've indicated that they would pay these owners fair market value for this property. And if I'm starting to be corrected, I think it was something, I don't even call the number. Let me see if I can be able to pull up the story so you can be able to read it to you. So you can say, right? So the position that they've taken is that they're going to be able to acquire this land, develop this land, take care of the people for this land, and then be able to create the Afro whatever, the African whatever, this kind of a market space in the middle of Freeport. And so that was her position on that. I need to have a further conversation with her on those particular things. I thought that itself was also a good move. The International Bazaar has eroded from 2004. The Princess Casino closed. If you remember when it was the Princess, the Country Club, and they sold it to Driftwood. When they sold it to Driftwood, they were supposed to be able to do some sort of development or whatnot. I think the company that it was going to sell it to prior to Driftwood under the Progressive Liberal Party's administration had some sort of affiliation, I stand to be corrected, with mob ties. And so I could remember almost like yesterday listening to our prime minister, not necessarily speak with the specificity of mobs, but the character associated with persons being able to come in and the importance of being able to vet those characters to make a determination that you don't move swiftly with these particular things, that you're thorough and ensuring that these particular things are done properly, correctly, accurately, so forth and so on. As a result of 2004, which Hurricane Francis and James dilapidated, demolished, and really demoralized this particular space, there was no enthusiasm of being able to pour back into this because of the significant damage endured in this space. As a result of that, this dilapidation, this diminishing, this erosion of the property itself, the price plummeted with that. This concept for restoration and revival has come through, whether it be the Ministry of the Ministry of Grand Bahama or some separate entity that's working in hand, or a public-private partnership with the Ministry of Grand Bahama for the acquisition and development of this particular concept and idea, I think is a good idea. Now, I need you to know that the PLP is working their butts off to get you a little couple votes in Grand Bahama. I need you to know that. And I need you to know that the PLP is doing a great deal of things through the front door of formality. This doesn't necessarily happen all the time in politics. This is done perceivably, assumedly, with the intention of transparency and what is believed to be political integrity. That's almost oxymoronic. That's almost like an oxymoron. Political integrity. Just saying it is a laugh, right? Political community. No, it's political integrity. No, I believe that what we're seeing in Grand Bahama, I think, if I could shoot straight with you, Pat, and everybody else that's watching with me today, the PLP knows that this is a blow that they can take. Okay? They know that this could be, that they may not win any seats in Grand Bahama. We're not talking about the government of the Bahamas. We're not talking about the PLP as at large. We're talking about Grand Bahama specifically. I just gave you the backdrop of the relationship that exists with Grand Bahamians and the affection that they had for the Free National Movement, for the development that the oligarchs have given them for the development of Freeport and providing them opportunity and job and so forth and so on. I'd give you the whole backdrop from 1969 and this kind of a slighted position that the PLP is given by its leadership, the then Lyndon Pinland, fighting for the Bahamian people, fighting for the blacks in the community, Lyndon Pinland come there fighting for the blacks in the community, spoke about equality, spoke about opportunity, spoke about the fact that contracts should not go there, spoke about persons should give access and opportunities to the. Lyndon Pinland come there and agitated for Negroes. And the Negroes turned against them. That has not died down. That conversation did not travel through the ages, did not travel through to 1981, 1991, 2001. That conversation never traveled, but that sentiment never diminished. That feeling that the oligarchs in Grand Bahama had in 1969 never left. In fact, it's still there now. Now. It still exists in this space right now. Everyone allowed sleeping dogs to lie from a political standpoint. Everyone. They let Freeport do what they had to do, and people keep coming to the government of the Bahamas complaining. People keep coming to the government of the Bahamas complaining. They keep coming. They keep coming back and complaining. And go ahead. Can you mic check 1 2? Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Let me see something. Can you guys hear me out there? Somebody text me, let me know if you can be able to hear me, because it seemed like this thing is peaking and I'm trying to turn it down. All right? Text me and let me know if you can be able to hear me. Let's be clear about some things, okay? Let's talk about this. Let's be clear about this. Let's have an honest conversation with each other. What the PLP has done, what this New Day administration more specifically has done, what Brave Davis has done, is that he rattled the wasp nest. He didn't have to do this. There was no need for him to do this. He didn't have to do this. He didn't have to find himself in this sort of a position where he was doing this. He didn't have to do this. He knew that this could mean that he would not necessarily receive the support that he intended or he desired out of Grand Bahama. He already had 2 seats. Historically, you would have been able to see an affiliation and a significant leaning towards the Free National Movement. And then numerically, you could be able to identify that and quantify that this is what happened. There could only be possibilities of being able to retrieve Marco City in Grand Bahama. Talk to me. But because Michael Pintard has turned Marco City into his very own, there could be no expectation of acquiring that again. Not now. Not now. So you cut off Marco City, and now you relegate Marco City, Central Grand Bahama, East Grand Bahama to the PLP. You say to the FNM. You say East Grand Bahama, Central Grand Bahama, Marco City, FNM, 3 seats for sure. You're teetering on the edge of what our expectations could be and being able to see the Free National Movement being able to retain a seat in West Grand Bahama. You're teetering on the edge of that. And Ginger have to do a great deal to be able to retain her seat also in Pine Ridge, because Grand Bahama is pro-FNM. Pro-FNM by a conditioning. They're pro-FNM by a conditioning, by an environment, by the mindset that exists in this particular space. And as a result of that, they are taking on major challenges for reformation to make people to understand the same way that they've done in Long Island by being able to institute what no other administration has done, no other political administration has done, and being able to, even the people that you support, the FNM, never do this for you. That's what they're doing. But there's in the strategic infrastructural development that actually is ushering in a new day in your mind. I hate talking like this because it feels like I champion their cause. It feels like I'm out here campaigning for them. But all I'm saying to you, look what they're doing. Look. You think an airport in the Family Islands is not an approach to be able to shift your mind about how you perceive the PLP? You think an opportunity to give $20 million to a regular Joe Blow that live right around here for contractual development for something of this particular magnitude, you don't think that people in your community is watching that? You think by being able to make the modifications necessary to acquire the Grand Bahama Bazaar and to develop the airport, which they're saying that they're starting to do that. And there's been kind of a back and forth with that, with actually being able to develop the Grand Lucayan and being able to pull back into Grand Bahama. This is a persuasive concept and idea. Beyond the rhetoric and casual conversations of what the FNM done and what the PLP has done and what the FNM hasn't done, this administration has taken on a significant challenge. It may not pay off for them in Grand Bahama, but it's a challenge to be able to reform the people. It may not necessarily work for this dispensation of the PLP. Can I say this to you? Can I say this to you? Are we talking? Let's talk. This tactic, this approach, this strategy that the Prime Minister has taken to identify strategic projects and see reformation in Grand Bahama in these particular areas may not pay off for the New Day administration, but it will pay off for the PLP well into the future. It will. This reformation that the PLP has undergone for the past 9 years, from 2017 to 2026, going on into 27, the reformation, the transformation that the PLP has undertaken strategically, incrementally, and from a macro standpoint, whatever changes that we've seen them going through, this may not necessarily work in their favor, this dispensation. But the next dispensation of PLPs will be able to champion the cause of Brave and what Brave would have done for the organization. And then you would hear a chanting coming out of the PLP's camp. Pinland killed his thousands, and Brave killed his tens of thousands. And then, just like you would have heard today in the House of Assembly, the king, come on now, you ain't hear them saying that in the background? He's the man, he's the king at what he does. As he starts to say, I don't go to litigation for nothing. I don't take these things lightly. You would hear a resounding position, even in the event that they're not successful at the next general election, at the inflection of the next general election. This acquisition, these fights, this determination, this language, this poise, this posture, this sort of a focus and face-to-face, nose-to-nose, pound-for-pound, blow-for-blow concept that this administration is taking. Yeah, even if they're not successful, this administration, it will reform politics and the approach that the PLP takes well into the future. Well into the future. And this is something that all of us is looking at and we are excited about because it really speaks to transformation, growth, and development in our community. It really speaks to the concept and idea of what can possibly happen when you believe and when you're committed. It really speaks to the fact that if you're convicted, if you're connected, if you're committed, then you could be able to make significant steps for transformation, growth, and development despite what's happening around you. I did not know that the Prime Minister was going to come and solely speak to us about the Grand Bahama Port Authority. I thought he was going to take a time to be able to use this to tell us all about what's happening with Iran, what's happening with oil, what's happening and what the government's thinking. All of these things. And he chose to take his time to breathe in, to breathe out, and to be able to speak with clarity on these matters. Well, how would you champion in the PLP cause? That's the only thing you could say when you can't find fault. That's the only thing you could say. Jesus Christ, boy, how would you sound like a PLP? That's the only thing you could say. Defend your position. Defend your position. I just told you that by default, if you're from Grand Bahama, you've been conditioned. If your father's father and your mother's mother was working for the Port Authority, these are the people that you would have gone to, and they took care of you. You have a subconscious affiliation with the Free National Movement because these people, the whites, the oligarchs, the UBPs, are the people who sat in the position of authority in Grand Bahama for a long time. And so their proverbial tentacle that reached far and wide throughout the island of Grand Bahama influenced you. Influence your forefathers, influence those particular persons, and influence politics in the community. The community has a relationship with the Free National Movement. And until you wake up and take the proper pill to realize that you are in a relentless, rhetorical, repetitious, what do they call that, syndication. Until you realize that you are in this sort of simulation, rather. I had to look for that word just now. I had it and then it gone and I had to get it back. This simulation. Until you realize that you're living in a repetitious manner and only doing as you've seen done without thinking about it. When you wake up, you'll ask yourself, well, what the hell I support the Free National Movement for? What did I support them for? And there will be relentless postures and positions of people trying to be able to defend their position. There will be. Relentlessly. People are going to say, well, you know, technically this is what it is. Okay, man, listen, man. Hey, listen. Okay. It's fine. I'm not a supporter of the PLP. Listen, I'm not a PLP. I'm not a PLP. But I'm looking at this and trying to figure out what is best for the Bahamian people. Is this going to break up the monotony of segregation that exists in Grand Bahama? Unspoken segregation. Is this going to break up the monotony of being able to divide us and make us to feel inferior? Is this going to be able to incorporate and encourage an entrepreneurial aspect for opportunities to be able to expand and grow significantly? Is this going to be able to give access to the government that we can be able to, whatever concessions that's extended to Grand Bahamians at large, I mean, to the Bahamas at large, that we would be responsible for that. Let me call you back. I sorry about that, C. Allen. Let me call you back. Let me call you back. Yeah. Is this going to be able to break those particular things up? These are very clear questions that we have to
Hello?
ask. C. Allen, go ahead. What's happening with you?
Yes, yeah, you're on the air? Okay,
Yeah,
one second,
man.
let me just...
What's happening with
just,
you?
Just mute this. Yes, sir, how you doing?
Everything good?
Yeah. Just, I'm going to back and forth, helping my kids with their homework. The what do you call it? The hazards of homeschooling.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
So, but I'm there, but they're doing good. I got a 9-year-old probably in the 9th or 10th grade, and a 5-year-old in the 6th, and I got a 2-year-old gonna be in 1 soon.
Wow.
So I'm creating the future generation of leaders, beginning along with my wife.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm kind of lucky. I'm kind of lucky. I found one in your group. She's 30 now. And,
My group. I 14 years a senior. Praise God.
No, I'm saying you from the millennials. She's from the Gen Z. I'm talking about this new generation who will probably be governing us after I leave the scene.
Yeah.
Or maybe, hopefully, I'll be sitting on the porch saying, "Now, where are my teeth? And what y'all doing now?" I better be as lucky as your grandmother.
Yeah. So tell me what you make of this, C. Allen. Tell me what you make of this.
I just want to tell you. I got some opinion. I got some legal opinions from cases. Okay, let me just slowly take this slowly. The government. We don't need to go through this whole shingamarang about what has happened. Unequivocally, okay. A Casey says to me, the government lost their case. There's no debate. It says, go to the report. I have my notes, so I'm just going to dismiss thing. It says, the government monetary claim was dismissed. The tribunal's operative order is explicit. The government claim is dismissed. And there's no entitlements to sums for 2018 to 22 under the government theory. And so it says that the government is not entitled to any sum on the basis advanced in this case, right? So, but however, it then went to look at the 8 claims made by the Grand Bahama Port Authority. It said 7 of them are dismissed, period. It is then laid down this whole concept for review of damages. It has nothing to do with what was part of this ruling, which in their opinion, it simply said what the government can still do, but there is not an immediate reclaim right. Listen, that's very important. That the tribunal said it's self-evident that the government can invoke the review process for future years. It cannot go back. Okay?
No.
Going for
that ain't what it say. It said that the quasi-government in Grand Bahama indicated that they didn't want to start to talk about retroactivity. So they did not want you to go back. But the tribunal did not disagree that you could be able to look back all the way to 1994 and make it retroactive.
No, they want to look at the argument. But it says that in the same way the government didn't in this initial, it says, and this is what it said to me. If the government could have done that, even it's self-evident, the government could have done that, they would have made the claim not for the 5 years, which gives the 6 years claim that we have before statutes expire to make the claim. The government would have made the claim all the way back to 1999 anyway, because the 5 years of the $500,000 was paid. So if the government had the ability, they wouldn't have just went for these 5 years. The government would have went. They started at 2018 from the time they made the claim. That they could have went back for the 5 years. So they could have went back 6 years, but the government played it safe and went back 5 years. So if the government had the legal authority to go back to 1999, they would have not left maybe over $1 billion or $2 billion on the table. They knew the statutes of limitations in regard to the claim. Okay? So now the government today, in making their request for review, can go back. Let's say the statute is 6, they can still go back for 6 years or 5 to be safe from today, not go back to 2018. Because this is a new review under the agreement of 1994, because summarily they were dismissed under the other claim. I was told there's no debate in that. However, what is left on the table today is the Port Authority is the one that the two of these must determine what damages or whatever could have happened, make a determination as what's going forward. A separate
The
review
information indicated that the Port Authority and the government have to come to an agreement of how that they would measure how whatever the loss existed. There is an
you're right.
acknowledgement
Only for
that
one,
there is
for one
lost.
thing, the environmental law. This summarily dismissed everything. The government is off the table, and the 7 of the Port Authority is off the table. What is on the table now is the damages that the Port Authority would have to make that would have happened from them being denied this. Okay? That's the damages. And so in the same respect, the government can also make a claim, right? So the government has lost their claim. Listen to this carefully. Has lost their claim for the 357 million.
Okay, so this so
Let me
for me, hold on. Let's see. For me, the government has lost the claim for $357 million. However,
good. Stop
there's a
right there.
caveat. There's a caveat.
Right.
The government has the possibility of being able to identify that there was a loss. There was an acknowledgement that there has been loss.
No, not in regards to this case. This case is close. The loss that's only on the table is the Port Authority claim. Let me go back to the legal claim. The government has lost the government has lost the 357 million. So the Port Authority can now claim legal costs against them. Hold on. But the Port Authority now has made 7 or 8 claims against the government. So the government now can make illegal claims against them. Now, they can shake hands and says, we're gone. But if they both agree that, okay, neither of us will carry our own costs for legal, then the only thing left on the table is determining this.
Let me read this for you, okay?
I actually read the document.
I know you did. So let's read this here. This is from the AG, and the AG has actually indicated exactly what's what. Mr. Pinder argued that in 1994's agreement, paragraph 3 is almost identical to the scope that we could expect.
Good.
Under the Hawksbill
right.
Creek Agreement, the clause that used to bring the claim implying that
But you cannot
it
go.
could
No,
be
but Howard,
as a result.
pause. He's correct. We don't have to argue. He's correct. I am saying to you, under this new claim, he can't go back there. He can only go back 6 years.
Yeah, but despite where he could go back, the government now have to identify and they have to come on an agreement of how they quantify what the loss was.
No, they'd have to do that. No, see, you saying loss. No, Howard, it has nothing to do with this. If you go and read this ruling, the loss they're talking about is to the Port Authority. It's not the government. The government has to file a new claim for what is owed. I'm saying to you.
Of course, it's a new claim, but in that claim, it says, in my opinion, we still owe the full amount of the claim that still stands.
Howard,
He says, we look forward to the review. The Grand Bahama Port
in the
Authority
future.
Permanence.
Right. We look forward. But Howard, we are trying to convolute two different things. You and I have a lawsuit, and you sue me, right? And then the judge says to you, I summarily dismiss your lawsuit because you filed it under the wrong act.
Okay, good.
And you says, but if you want to, come back to me under the right act. That's all it said.
But
Nothing
yes,
new.
it's because of the
Howard,
the
but let me ask you a
signing.
question. No, but see, when the ruling happened, the case is finished. There is one thing I've been advised. One thing that's still active underneath this. Okay? See, there's one thing that's still active under this. It's the damages that the Port Authority must now claim that happened due to this environmental bylaws not being enacted. Okay? Now, this is after that active is done, this case is closed. But the government, still being the government, and this agreement still being in effect, can come for a review using the new law, which will have nothing to do with this.
But which could actually quantify based upon the fact that, okay, so they did it incorrectly the first time. They went under the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, but now under the new agreement that was signed in 1994, if they do the proper calculation, it could possibly be more than $357 million.
But before we don't know, but that's what I'm saying. But let's not convolute the two. I'm saying to you, we talk about this case. This case is done with the exception of determining what the Port Authority is.
So essentially what you're saying is that there's no victors in this case. Everybody loses.
All right. Maybe,
and that's what Dylan knows. Dion knows has actually put out yesterday from the Chamber of Commerce, indicating that no one won. Essentially,
the
that's what
pe-
happened. No one won.
No, none of the two parties won. But the Port Authority may have been arguing that they won at least one of their cases where they'll get some damages. So they could argue that yes, we were denied certain rights and they'll get some damages. But the ultimate winner in this is the vehement people who now have clarity.
That's all I said.
Right?
I
You
said
understand?
that. I said that for a
but
long
I'm saying
time.
this, but we must stop. No, but I'm saying to you, this is a closed case. Okay? The Port Authority can't win anymore. The PLP can't win anymore. It's closed. Now, we are entitled as citizens to demand that the government now asks for a review under the new clause, which makes it a new case. This case is done. You can't add to this. You know, they said this is finale.
But the
done.
tribunals indicated that if y'all want us to, we'll be swift
Yeah, if
in
you
our
want-
approach to be able to deal
because-
with these particular things.
But you see, the tribunal says we are still active, and if you want us now to look at this new case, okay, this new claim, because we are now familiar with it. You don't have to go reconstitute a whole
Yeah.
new tribunal. We
Well, let
are
me-
familiar. Huh?
Let me take a next telephone call before I got to hear my phone
so
going
I'm
off
just
the
simply
hook.
saying
Yeah.
that because it's disingenuous for us because we will begin to argue about this rather than asking what's now, what's new, and what's next.
Well,
This is done.
the disingenuous nature didn't come from the people of the Bahamas. It
No.
came from the Port Authority, who ran forward and indicated with a one pager that we won out of 139,
But Howard-
139 pages.
But Howard,
and so,
please, man.
because that mechanism was turned on, the government has the responsibility of being able to defend, especially
Let
in
me
the
ask you
time
a
that
question,
we're in.
Howard. You read the agreement. Did the Port Authority win, and the government?
They
was
won one of
No,
the
okay,
8.
good. No. I'm
Yes.
saying to you. See, Howard, I don't want us to mix this up. I'm talking so people can
I
understand.
see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
No,
Let me take
I
it
don't
next
want to
telephone.
mix this up. See, no, just political because Howard.
I
this
accept
is
what
my
you're saying.
23rd No, this is my 23rd anniversary. I know where this is because I've been asking for it for 20 years, and I know where this needs to go. Nobody can tell me that the PLP, the FNM, the COI, no one could come face to face with me on this. No PLP, none.
All right.
I challenge.
Well, let me
I
take the
even
next
challenge
telephone
Ryan
call.
Pinder. Okay, I'm simply saying this because you know why? The same
Yeah.
Ryan Pinder, the same Brave Davis, the same all of these people, FNM and PLP, was governing when they denied me these rights
Wow.
that I now have.
Wow.
Okay, so they can't come now and say, well, this is that. You
Wow.
can't twist what I've been arguing for 23 years. You can't.
I
Neither can
appreciate
the
it,
Port Authority.
Cialan. I
Okay?
appreciate it. We can
Thank you.
we can talk, man. Thanks so much for your telephone call. Let me see if I can be able to make this call. Anton called me 98 times. So let me call Anton and be able to get in here and have that kind of a conversation with him, see where he stands. Anton, I'm calling you now on your phone, and you're calling me on the next phone. So let's call. Cut this one off. Cut this one on.
You have been redirected.
Hold on. Call me on this phone. This is the phone that we use. Hold on, Anton.
Howard,
Hey, good afternoon, Anton. What's up with you?
a pleasant good afternoon, my brother. How you doing?
Everything good, man. What's happening?
Okay, let me walk right into it, man. I don't know what P. Allen talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was just feeding you with a whole heap of misinformation. Howard. Ask C. Allen to show you anywhere in the documents where this matter has concluded, right? This matter has been ruled on partially. The matter is still very much alive. The entire matter is alive, which is why no one can determine cost and attribute cost regarding this whole tribunal matter to one party or the next, because the matter has only been ruled on partially. The independent tribunal has told the government of the Bahamas and it has told the GBPA to go back to the table based on the clause in the agreement signed in 1994 by Hubert Alexander Ingram, to go back to the table and to review. There was supposed to be a review after the clause was entered into 1994. 5 years later, there was to be a review. 5 years later, Howard, would mean a review is required by the law in 1999. The tribunal has told the government of the Bahamas and the GBPA, the only reason why it cannot grant the government its claim of $357 million. Can you hear me, Howard?
I read you.
The only reason why the tribunal, the independent tribunal, could not grant the government its claim of $357 million is because it is required in the law agreement that they come together and agree to the amount, right? They haven't done that as yet, Howard. The government of the Bahamas, along with the GBPA, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, has not sat down, looked at all of the costs, and simply reasonably agree to what the final cost would be. Now, watch this, Howard. Watch this. What people are overlooking is this very serious and key fact that is pretty much, in my view, the heartbeat, the main ventricle of this entire matter. The government's claim initially only accounted for about 5 to 7 years. I don't remember which one. Is either 5 years or 7 years, based upon that audit review conducted by Pricewaterhouse Coopers, or Pricewaterhouse, sorry. Their claim only went back 5, 7 years maximum. Howard. You heard me? You heard me, Howard?
I listen.
Based upon what the tribunal ruled, the tribunal stated that the Grand Bahama Port Authority is liable as it stands for at least $500,000 for 31 to 32 years, right? That's minimum. However, it is required in law that they review that cost arrangement 5 years after, which is 1999. Therefore, Howard, it means the government can look at assessing the Port Authority for 27 years of cost.
And this is why they said that they didn't want it to be retroactive. Yes, of course.
Are you hearing me, Howard? And guess
Yes.
what? And guess what? Contrary to, I just called in on Chicago show on The Guardian. And C. Allen called in, after I called in, he provided misinformation over there as well. Chicago was at least wise enough to say he can't say whether or not, because he's not a lawyer. He cannot say whether or not the retroactivity goes back to 1999.
But that's the whole concept of retroactivity. The retroactivity, that's the whole concept of retroactivity. It would have been instituted when it was supposed to be. So if that's supposed to be after those 5 years from 1994, then the retroactivity starts in 1999. That's a simple thing.
Let me say to you, Howard, I spoke with one of the authorities in the matter, right? Frankly speaking, the Attorney General, who was unable to comment, right? Much beyond what is already said, right? However, Howard, the tribunal did not limit. They did not say that the government of the Bahamas cannot consider their review back to 1999. There is nowhere in the ruling where the tribunal limited the government's retroactivity to 2023 as being falsely claimed by C. Allen and others. Falsely claimed. They cannot tell you in that ruling where the tribunal has limited the government of the Bahamas to their review retroactively only to 2023. The government will be pursuing their review after 1999. And Howard, could you imagine what that means for the Port Authority? Can you imagine, Howard? If
This could also be a winding up. If in the event that this is,
that's the point that I'm going
this
to
could
right
be
now.
a winding
Howard,
up. That's all this could be.
This can listen, Howard.
This could bankrupt them.
$357 million, the $357 million claim current by the government could have bankrupt the Grand Bahama Port Authority.
And we found, and simultaneously, whilst they were making this claim, John Boswick, Rupert Roberts, and Rupert Roberts' granddaughter came up with a vehicle to possibly purchase the Grand Bahama Port Authority under this bond-free concept simultaneously whilst they were in this kind of a arbitration process, and indicated that they would be able to be one of the persons in the event that they were selling to purchase for $350-some million. And I said that this is peculiar that this is happening during this time. But listen, I gotta go run to do a show. I can't run do a show right now. And Gowan Bo is going to be on with me for Friday night. So I got to go pre-record that. Guys, Anton, I appreciate your telephone call, brother. I got to get out of here. Yeah.
Howard, can I say one more thing before you let me go, please?
Go ahead.
One more thing. I just did a calculation, a mathematical calculation. If we are being extremely low bar, right? If the government is being extremely low bar in its approach, and the government says to the Port Authority, I am prepared to knock off 80% of what Pricewaterhouse rightfully assessed is owed to the government. If they are prepared to knock off 80% and only put through 20%, and if the government goes back 27 years, Howard, to 1999, the port would still owe the government at a 20% assessment, almost $2 billion.
Hold on. Where'd you get this The only calculation we would have gotten is the $500,000 from 19.
No. What I did was I looked at the government's current claim of $357 million, which was rightfully calculated based upon expenditure from government services being provided just 5 to 7 years back to the port. If we look at that $357 million, Howard, and we only use 20% of that cost.
But the $357 million, and I can't even have this further conversation with you. I got to go, right? The $357 million is only a claim that is confined to a particular time period, and that has been thrown
5 to
out.
7 years. Only 5 to 7 years, right?
That has been thrown out.
No, it hasn't been thrown out in its entirety, Howard.
Not in its time. And what I'm saying to you is that the arbitrators has indicated that they need to be able to find a mechanism that they could be able to identify and come to a conclusion that this is the proper calculation. They don't have a proper calculation.
No, right. They have to sit down with the Port Authority, is what they have to do, and agree to the cost. But Pricewaterhouse has already outlined what the actual expenditure was.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying to you, Alvin.
Okay. Let's have this further conversation, my brother. I thank you so much for being able to tune in with me, man. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tuning in with me today. That is the show. I got to get out of here. In 10 minutes, I got to be on set to be able to do some things. It's been a great show. I want to thank you so very kindly for being able to tune in with us. We're going to jam again with you next time. We'll see you again next time, guys. Have a great day.
I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahama land to the foundation.